This is Outside the Booth.
Takes a shot instead and buries it from downtown. Tajon smacks it into the back of the net. The Revs pull one back. Game on.
Presented by Dan O'Brien Automotive Group.
Hey, we're back in the saddle. Heading to Tennessee. Well, we're not actually heading to Tennessee. We're calling it from the studio. But Charlie and I are back on Outside the Booth. We'll be calling the game tonight. 8:30 start at NBC Sports Boston. First ever trip to Tennessee for the Revolution. Welcome, everybody watching and listening. Welcome, Charlie. How you doing today, man?
Great. I take every day, I'm trying to make the most of it and stay extremely positive. So another day to embrace the great weather. Kids are at school, so nothing to complain about.
I like that attitude, Charlie, and it's contagious. So keep up that positive approach. I think we all appreciate it, and we also know it's not gratuitous with all the things that you have endured. And not everybody's having one in 2020, but Charlie's attitude is infectious. Now, the question is, can the Revs get the attitude back that they had before the disappointing loss to Philadelphia? And we'll discuss that. We'll also have Brian Bilello, the team president, a little bit later in the first half hour. Clyde Sims, our radio studio analyst, expected to join us as well. We'll discuss the Philadelphia game, also preview the Nashville match. Take your calls and tweets. As you know, the number is 855-728-7500, or tweet at us at RevsTV. Charlie, the Philadelphia game, there might as well not have been a referee in the middle there. He hardly called any fouls other than to give Matt Polster a yellow card. I think the Revs felt hard done to about the offside flag, which it was one of those that if it had gone the other way and the AR left the flag down and they go to video review, I don't think they overturn it the other way. But in the end, the Revs didn't do enough to win, and they weren't blaming the ref for the loss. What's your take now with a few days to look back?
I think you have to take the ref out of the equation. Yes, both teams have to deal with the refereeing. He let them play. He should have called more fouls throughout the match. But once you get a sense of how he's going to call the game, you have to adjust. And for the Revs, it was too little, too late. Once Tajon got that goal in the 80th minute, then you start to see the Revolution really picking it up, creating chances, combining, whipping balls in, generating opportunities that you felt like, man, they should get a point out of this, if not get all three. So yes, they dominated possession. They had control of the game against arguably one of the top teams in the East. Still, you're left with, I need more in that attacking third. I need more chances. I need more variety in that final third. So that's been the problem for the Revolution this year, especially in the second half of the year, is how are we going to score? How are we going to score goals? How are we going to get at opponents? And a team like Philadelphia Union, who they don't need the ball. They don't really care for it, possession. They're a team that we're organized. We know how we play. We're direct. And when we get the ball, it's straight to goal. If we don't get it, we counterpress. And then we get back, we retreat, we recover, and we stay organized. So those are the teams that are really difficult to play against because you get few opportunities, and they have an unbelievable goalkeeper, incredible keeper in Andre Blake. So you have to make it count when you do get your chances. And I think that's what the Revolution have learned when you're playing against Toronto FC and you're playing against Philadelphia Union. You have to finish your chances.
Yeah, it's such a fine margin of difference between the Revs and those teams that are just above them in the Eastern Conference standings right now. But when the Toronto game, you could argue that it was the call for the goal or the no call on the Toronto goal. The Revs will take some solace from the fact that they've played those teams very evenly. But in the end, they don't have a victory against either Toronto or Philadelphia, and that's going to impact their playoff standing when all is said and done, and they'll likely see at least one of those teams as they advance through the postseason. But tonight's game matters more than ever now. Nashville now getting their sixth win, back-to-back wins over Houston, and then Dallas. They blew out Dallas 3-0, even without Mukhtar, their creative attacking midfielder, and all of a sudden they look like more than just, Charlie, an expansion team. The Revs did put out a tweet that showed that Carlos Gil traveled today, but I don't want to get too deep into that just because I think it'd be naive to think that Carlos would play more than a couple minutes and not likely in a game that's close. But when you look at a team in Nashville that scored 6 goals in their last 2 games, it does not look like the side that came to Foxborough 3 weeks ago and packed it in the box and just played to steal something on the break. The Revs did outshoot them 17-4, so it wasn't like the Revs didn't huff and puff, but they couldn't blow that house down.
Yeah, well, Nashville is really well structured under Gary Smith. He has them defending first, and when you have an anchor like Walker Zimmerman in the back, I guess you see why LAFC have really missed him, because their defense has not looked the same since they let Walker Zimmerman leave for Nashville. And Nashville did a good job of getting that block right. And Romney has really performed at a higher level than expected. Dax McCarty in the midfield with Annabelle Godoy. That foursome, that block of 4 really gives them stability, and it really gives them kind of an anchor where we're not getting broken down here. We're going to make it compact. We're going to make it tough for opposing teams, and teams haven't been able to break them down. Now you're seeing them start to be a little bit more adventurous in the attacking half. Still, this isn't a team that connects passes. This isn't a team that is going to have possession and dictate the game. They're still largely a counterattack team. They expect to finish off a set pieces and be, when you have Walker Zimmerman in the box, they are dangerous. But this isn't a team that's going to play.
You love Walker Zimmerman. You love Walker Zimmerman.
He's a solid MLS defender. He's probably top 2 right now for defender of the year.
Okay.
Jonathan Mensah and Walker Zimmerman. Those are the 2 best center backs right now.
Okay.
In Major League Soccer.
Okay. No, he has progressed. I didn't rate him 4 or 5 years ago, but yes, the season he had with LAFC last year. Yeah. The season he had, when he's at Dallas, I thought he was middle of the pack, but he asserted himself. It's hard to disagree, and we're going to feature him in the open of the show tonight on NBC Sports Boston. But do you agree with me that they're more likely to play a more expansive game on the Nissan Stadium field, or do you think that the Revs are going to walk in and find that expansion Nashville are playing an away game at home, just packing into the box?
Well, it'll be a little bit better for Nashville, I think, when it comes to attacking, because they have Abu Danladi back, they have Rios back, they have Cadiz on the field.
Leal had a goal and an assist the other night.
Yeah, they have attackers. In the match where they came to New England, they were missing 5, 6 real attacking pieces. So they had to play defensive players in attacking positions. So you knew what you were going to get. Here, in this match, I expect them to attack a little bit more, but nothing like we've seen from Philadelphia Union or Toronto FC or New York City FC. So I still expect the Revolution.
If the Revs can get an early goal, though,
points.
it could be
Yes.
a barn burner. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's the way it looks to me. Yeah, Cadiz is a bit of an unknown quantity. He did score his first MLS goal. He did not play last time the Revs saw Nashville back on October 3rd. But he's a big, rangy guy, and I think that he might be a handful. And he's the sort of last piece of the puzzle that they've added this year. What should the Revs be worried about with him?
Well, I just think the Revs don't really have to worry about one player in particular for Nashville. The Revs have, I went on BST last night, and what I have told everyone is this Revs team has talent. And if everyone's fit and healthy, they have a number of players who can come in and make an impact. So they have depth. What they need to focus on is themselves. When you have a player like Lee Win, and if Carlos Gil can get fit soon, I would expect it takes him 3 weeks or so in full training to get fitness. You expect to control the game, dictate the tempo. You don't have to worry about other players. You don't have to worry about individuals. Yes, a Pozuelo, you have to worry about where he is on the field. But as far as like playing your game, know your roles, that's all the Revolution have to do. So again, a game against Nashville, don't worry about anybody else except yourselves and scoring chances and creating opportunities and mismatches, using Tajon Buchanan, using Teal Bunbury, using Pace, DeJuan Jones and Bootner, the service. being able to adapt, that is what you need to focus on.
And good news is the referee tonight is Robert Sabiga. For me, arguably the best guy going right now in MLS. So I don't want to jinx anything because even the best referees can make a call that hurts your team. But his ability to control the match, not just his understanding of the laws and his ability to apply them, but his the way he relates to players, his man management, I think is superior. I'm going to interject a brief political message. If you haven't voted already, vote. I'm not going to, there's a nonpartisan encouragement for you to rock your vote. Everybody should participate. If you don't, then you can't complain about the outcome. That's for sure. Again, we're expected to be joined. We're expected to be joined by Revs president Brian Bilello in just a few minutes. Come on, folks, pick up the phone. Give us a call. There's still time to get your call in before Revs Prez joins us. I'm looking at the Twitter account. Usually by now we got a bunch of stuff. What's up? Yeah, Bruce Arena's traveling. He's not calling live, but we will hear from Bruce Arena a little bit later. So we want your thoughts. We want your thoughts on how big a game this is. The Revs still can inch closer to those top four. They can, in theory, this weekend clinch a playoff spot, but they have to either win or draw tonight. Here are the scenarios for the Revs, and I'm going to read them so that I don't botch it. I should have them committed to memory, I know, but they're ever shifting. So, Revs win this game tonight against Nashville, and then they need Atlanta to lose or draw against DC, or if the Revs tie, then they need Atlanta to lose to DC United, and Inter Miami drops points against Orlando City. So, if you're a Revs fan, you're rooting for the Revs, obviously, and you're rooting against Atlanta. You're in the uncomfortable position of hoping that DC takes points from Atlanta United. But that's the way the math works out. And, obviously we'll update after the result tonight, but that shows you the importance of it. And, the Reds just really need to take care of their business. They need to lock down a playoff position. Top four would be ideal. Top six, you'd say top six is what's really important, right? Because single elimination, the home games, although the Revs would love to have a home playoff game, seems less important, especially with the Revs' road form, winning 5 of their last 6. What you just don't want is that extra play-in round. Do you agree, Charlie?
Yeah, and I think this Revs team has what it takes to get that 4th spot. You can catch Orlando, and Orlando's playing Miami. We know what that rivalry has turned into. Yeah, you throw in Higuain, who's suspended for this match because he got a red card after the play had concluded, and so I do hope that Miami can get a point from Orlando, and therefore the Revs get 3 points against Nashville. Then you're making up that distance. So with the remaining schedule, I think it's 7 points from the next 3 matches. I think that's doable, and that'll put the Revs into a good position of attaining a top 4 spot.
We get a question, Charlie, from Luca, who asks, ideally, do you expect Carlos Heel to get minutes in the last few regular season games? Well, we already touched upon it, but yes, but you got to ease him back in, right? 7-8 minutes the first time, 20, then maybe 30, but you don't start him. And it's all based on the progress report from the athletic training staff. You can't pre-prescribe these things, right?
No. He's been out for an extended amount of time, and you don't want to have him come back just to lose him again too. And it doesn't have to be the heel, right? It could be a groin. It could be a calf.
Right, because you're not completely fit yet, so there's a domino effect, yeah.
There's atrophy and also just the fitness in the muscles, the fatigue. Plus, when you're out for so long, in training, you're doing an extra amount of work to try and catch up. So when you throw in that extra work plus matches, you're going to have a setback.
It could be one step forward, one step back. Yeah. So
he's a man, and yes, he'll get minutes. I just hope he's not pushing it, because all players, especially when you get to that caliber, the impact you can have on a match, and so therefore you're pushing yourself to do a little bit more. And I hope that he doesn't toe the line.
Right, and what you have to do is you have to be honest with the trainers and the doctors about where you're at, and of course the coaching staff, because when that doesn't happen, that can lead to longer term injury. And as much as, the Revs need to lock in a playoff spot, but where you really need them is in November, not in October. And joining us now for the first time ever on Outside the Booth,
The debut.
Mr. Brian Bilello, the Revs president of the club. Brian, thanks for making some time in your busy schedule. And how are you today?
Very good. I'm doing very well. How are you guys doing?
We're amped. We're jacked and pumped for this game down in Music City. First time ever for the Revs down there. I'm going to go big picture with you to start because you're the point person for the whole organization in dealing with the league and the other clubs. Starting with the tournament down in Orlando in July, to the restart of play in August, up to this point in what's been a rejiggered regular season, would you concur that given the difficult circumstances that MLS has mostly handled this very well, maybe not even getting as much credit as some of the other leagues in terms as it should, in terms of just how few COVID-related setbacks there have been? Colorado's obviously had some problems, but the tournament after you took those two teams out went beautifully well. So, big picture, we're playing soccer and the games have gone forward.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. I think the league's done a really good job throughout this season of being flexible more than anything. When this first happened, we all shut everything down, and that was a smart thing to do. But bringing the tournament to Orlando, having the games like we're having them now, doing charter travel the same day, people don't see behind the scenes. I mean, I have a 80-page manual from the league of all the procedures that we need to do to keep our players and staff safe throughout this process. So, it's not one of these situations where you can just say, here's the plan and go. You have to be flexible. You have to adjust to what you're seeing out there. And that's obviously very difficult in the United States and Canada because you've got two different countries. You've got, a couple of dozen different states, right, with MLS that we deal with, or a little over a dozen states. And everyone's got their own situation. They've got their own laws. So it's not a simple process by any stretch of the imagination. The league's done a very good job at allowing us to get the season on, get games at least on TV, so our fans have something to enjoy and hopefully give them a little bit of relaxation, fun, and something to think about other than the typical things that many of us have going on in our lives. Quick
follow-up, Brian. I'll get Charlie in a sec. Your thoughts on fans getting back in the stadium here in New England? Obviously, you have to deal with the Commonwealth, with the state, and every team has their own situation in that regard.
Yeah, it's certainly something we'd like to be able to do at some point. We only have one more home game in the regular season coming up, and then depending on what happens, we obviously hope to not only be in the playoffs, be in a position to host a home playoff game. So we're going to continue to work with the state and local authorities to try and allow us to host games here at Gillette Stadium. Those would be with greatly reduced crowds, but we know from our season members that we have people that want to come to games. They want to be able to see the team live and in person. And, we've developed a really comprehensive plan at Gillette Stadium to allow fans, for Revs and Pats games to be here in a very safe, socially distanced environment. Everything from parking lots to gates to concessions to the seating bowl. We've really thought about every aspect of that, and I think we have a great plan. So we're hopeful that we'll be able to have fans here at Gillette Stadium this year.
Ryan, what are your thoughts on the players and their performances throughout the season? You look at the first match away at Montreal up until this last match against the Philadelphia Union, and also how largely responsible they've been during this time to be able to go out there and perform and not have to postpone matches and miss games, that they've been able to take care of their work on and off the pitch.
Yeah, it's hard to say enough about our players and staff and how professional they've been throughout this. I mean, going down to Orlando first for that extended period of time, and then, managing what they have to do again every day here. So they've got, these guys have families too that they're worried about, and kids and family that's here and family that's sometimes in another country or a different part of this country. So, these guys have their own personal issues as well. It's not as simple as they're robots in a video game playing soccer. They're dealing with a lot of stuff on the personal side, and we certainly as a club have tried to be as helpful as we can whenever we can with the players. And then, in turn, they've been here, and I can't say enough about our team and our group and how well and how professional they've been, not only here in the facility, but when they go home and what they're doing when they go home, because I think we all recognize, and I'm here at the facility, my office is here at the facility, that we're all together in this, and nobody wants to bring something into the facility and put other players and staff at any kind of risk. So I think everyone takes that extremely seriously here, and we're all very just appreciative to be able to go out and do what we love doing.
Brian, I had the pleasure the last few nights of moderating some season member events online with groups of your first team players, and I think it was a great connection and bond you saw between the supporters and your players, and it was fun to hear some of the kidding around. I think the fans enjoyed seeing the players interact with each other. And also with them. But one of the things that came up on a couple of the calls was more than one player made the point when asked about the new training facility that having that brand spanking new, beautiful soccer-specific training facility here in Foxborough was part of what's made it possible to execute your strategy for dealing with the pandemic day in, day out, week in, week out, since you've returned to training and to play. Would you concur with that?
Yeah, I think the timing was great for us. I mean, this is it's a beautiful facility, but it's a large facility with a lot of different areas, a lot of different spaces, outdoor spaces, indoor spaces. So not just for our first team, but even for our USL team, which is a different floor, so they're not anywhere near the first team during all this. But we're really able to accommodate everything we need to do. We have enough fields, we have enough space, and again, being a modern facility, it's probably a little bigger and spread out versus some of the older facilities in MLS. So certainly it's been a huge help for us to be able to do everything we need to do and do it in a way that makes our players comfortable and efficient, sort of coming in and out of the building and taking care of everything.
Brian, in your opinion, where is this team? We've seen them get tested against New York City FC, Toronto FC, and Philadelphia Union. It seems that they're on the cusp of being a team that's going to challenge for the Eastern Conference Championship, for an MLS Cup. What's going to take them over the edge?
Yeah, it's been an interesting season, Charlie. And you guys know, and I know a lot of people know that I'm kind of a big numbers guy, and we look at a lot of different things. Obviously, our coaching staff is very experienced at what they do, and we have a staff to support them. And our performances, I guess I'd say, are over the course of the season, we've performed like one of the best, frankly, 2 or 3 teams in the entire league. And we just unfortunately haven't been able to always turn those performances into results. So it does create a really interesting situation, right, for you to evaluate. I think when you play poorly and you get poor results, you kind of know what you need to do. But when you're playing pretty well and consistently creating better chances than your opponents, it's a little trickier to say, well, let's do this or let's do that, because at the end of the day, the goal is to have a game plan and have players that perform where you're consistently creating better chances than your opponents, and then obviously putting those away. And then that last part, I think, is where we've struggled at times. And so it's probably a little bit more nuanced, right, than just blow everything up or make major changes. What you're trying to do is capitalize on all the great work that our players are doing and the great game plans that our coaches are putting out there. So we feel really good about the team. We feel really good about what we're doing. Those of you paying attention on social media this morning saw that Carlos Hill did travel to Nashville with the team, and so we're certainly excited that he's back training with the team at the end of the season, and we hope that obviously he can get on the field for us and contribute. And I think if we can get Carlos on the field, he's just a fantastic player, and I can't imagine he won't have something to add to this group. And he's the type of player that is a great player, but the magic of Carlos is he's a great player for everyone on the pitch, right?
Yep.
He makes it better and easier for everyone else to be good. And so it's not like when you bring in a forward and you add a bunch of goals to your team, or you bring in a goalkeeper or defender and you subtract some goals from your team. I mean, he's legitimately has the ability to make everyone on our team better when he's on the field, and I think that's a pretty exciting prospect, knowing how well we've played by and large this season, and to be able to potentially add him back in is pretty exciting.
Yeah, and I know that the team has its own internal analytics and metrics that it goes by, but there was an interesting article late last week on MLSsoccer.com where they showed that the Revs, relative to their expected goals, whatever you think of expected goals, had sort of underperformed, meaning that just in terms of the chances and the quality of the chances generated, no team's been unluckier or faced better goalkeeping, however you want to slice it. It's one thing when Blake robs you, but when Joe Willis is stoning you just got to feel like you got bad luck. Hey, to that end, LaShawna writes in, this is a question for you, Brian. It's no secret that New England fans can be brutal, and when things get tough, and when things are looking up. So they're hard on us and on you, even when things are going well. Can you please tell her what tools you use, Brian, to stay so even-keeled? Is it just experience, or do you have a great stress-busting routine? It has something to do with bacon and bourbon, right?
I do. I have been known to stress eat. That is fair enough, but. No, from my perspective, right, when fans are upset when we don't play well, right, I mean, you want to see someone upset, you just seen me at the end of the Philly game, right, and it wasn't me upset at our players or our team, just frustrated, right, about how Tajon's a nose offside, right? And that was an emotional moment where we all thought we had that tying goal and frankly felt like there might be another one coming after that too, and so we're all emotional about this, and I think the worst thing you can have as a club, and from my position as club president, the worst possible thing you can have is a fan base that's apathetic, is a fan base that doesn't care, a fan base that's not engaged. So, it's not great when we have a tough result or the team's not playing well and our fans are angry and frustrated, but it'd be much worse if they didn't care. So I always appreciate all the emotions that our fans bring to the table. I was a ref season ticket holder back in the early days, so I've lived those emotions myself as a fan. We all appreciate that, right? We don't, we're not business people running a normal business here. We fully understand what the club means to our fan base, and so when I see fans upset or angry with it, whether it's with me or the players or just everything in general, the silver lining is we know they care and they're telling us that they want us to be better, right? And that's, I think, the most important thing.
Brian, one more for you because I know it's a match day. One of the things in this unusual singular season year that's 2020 is the increased visibility of player social activism. And you've given not just wide berth for the players to express themselves, but you've also you at the head of the organization, organizationally, but clearly your imprimatur is on it. You have helped steer things in the direction of allowing the players in the organization to express themselves in terms of supporting things like the Change organization and the players amplifying the message of the league-wide Black Players for Change organization, and now the voting, Get Out the Vote initiative. Can you just talk about your philosophy and how you've tried to apply it actively and also stay out of the way so the players can do their thing?
Sure. I think whatever the players, this initiative obviously is a very important one and very topical right now for all of us. But I think my general philosophy before this even is the players are the players, right? They represent themselves. I look at myself as the club president. I represent the club, and that's what my job is. But the players really, they stand for themselves. And I think as a club, you have to give them the platform to express how they feel and what it is they want to talk about and those issues. And they have a platform for that. And I think as a club, it's not only okay to, I think you should be amplifying your player messaging and what they're talking about. And I think that's very important. And in this particular initiative, the one thing that was very clear from the beginning is that it wasn't just something that was important to a few players or a few people, that all of our staff, whether they sell tickets or in the marketing group, digital group, right, they all were feeling hurt, and I think a real desire to try to do something, do anything. And so rather than grabbing sort of our community relations team and the people that deal with this every day, whether it's, children's hospital stuff or Special Olympics, things like that, youth soccer programming, this felt like something where we need to allow our staff to have input and allow all our staff, if they wanted to be part of this process. So, instead of sort of coming up with a series of social justice type initiatives, we started with forming this change committee, and I know you know firsthand about it, right? As someone who works on that committee, but the idea was to allow a diverse group of people, from personal side, but also from their work roles here, to really dive in and develop ideas of what our club can be doing and how we should be doing it. And so far, I've been really impressed by the group and the work they're doing, and we're going to continue to allow that group and ask that group to come up with initiatives and help guide the organization on what we can do. And I think it's been a great experience so far to see what they're able to come up with, and I'm looking forward to the future of what we do there.
Well, I know it's very much appreciated on a lot of fronts there, Brian. So big thanks to the Revolution organization and to you in particular, and great work by the staff and the players and everybody so far. A lot of work still to be done. Brian, any last thought before we let you go? Trip to Nashville tonight. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, it should be good. Unfortunately, we have a lot of travel restrictions this year, and so the travel parties are relatively small versus years in past. So I'm still here in Foxborough, where it's watching on TV with the fans, and this would have been a fun trip. So I can't wait till hopefully future years where I get to take the trip. I'm a pretty big barbecue fan, so I had this one. I had this one on my calendar, so I'm hurt not being able to go to Nashville this year, but looking forward to the next one's coming up.
Amen. Yeah. All right. Mr. Bilello, thank you so much for the time. Great stuff.
All right, guys.
Appreciate it. All right, good call. He's always got good things to say. And, the one thing I don't like is when he comes in here after the games and starts talking about how fast he is. I want to remind everybody that, you talked to Charlie, you did it for a living. You had wheels. And Brian played in college. But, this idea that, I'm somehow slow –
yeah.
Dude, I'm 53 years old. If we're going years for yards, you guys don't stand a chance. If I get a lead, a yard for every year I am older, it's not even a race. If we go even,
it depends how long the race is.
Well, that's the thing too. I still got my old man quicks. You know what I mean? If we're over 5 yards, you're in trouble. Once we get up to 25 yards, I might be in trouble. Anyway, no, Brian and I have been teammates and opponents in pickup soccer. And it's definitely, the former is definitely better for my business relationships because we start getting into each other. All right, we're going to step out, take a quick break. Lots more talk about Nashville, and we'll have Clyde Sims as well. Stay right there.
Patriot Place in Foxborough is now open for shopping and dining. The health and safety of our guests is important, and we've created an environment that is safe for everyone. Enjoy dinner and drinks at our incredible restaurants, including Scorpion Bar, CBS Sporting Club, Skipjack's Best Fresh Seafood, Davies, Six String Grill and Stage, and the new Citizen Crust. Shop Olympia Sports, Bass Pro Shops, Alta Beauty, Express, and Vineyard Vines. Visit patriot-place.com for the most up-to-date store and restaurant information.
Dan O'Brien here to let you know the Dan O'Brien Auto Group is a proud sponsor of Gillette Stadium and all the awesome events that take place here. Speaking of awesome, when you buy your new or pre-owned vehicle from the Dan O'Brien Automotive Group, you get our exclusive Awesome Protection Plan. That's 1 year of maintenance, 1 year of paintless dent repair, free safety inspections for you and your entire household for as long as you own the car, and our exclusive Awesome Lifetime Warranty. Come get yours today. Dan O'Brien Auto Group, keeping it awesome. Log on now to DanO'BrienAutoGroup.com.
Empower Retirement is proud to partner with the New England Revolution. The two organizations have a shared set of values, including commitment to hard work, attention to detail, and dedication to winning. Empower Retirement believes that now is a good time to set retirement income goals and work toward achieving them. With an innovative approach and a fresh perspective, Empower is changing the way people save for the future and how they live today. Empower Retirement. Now is a good time.
The New England Revolution are back for another energetic season. At Enel, we're opening up a new world of sustainable power in more than 30 countries. And we're proud to be the Revolution's official energy partner. So while you use your energy to root on the revolution, Enel will be right there with you, supplying Gillette Stadium and Patriot Place with innovative energy solutions. We're also working to provide smarter, more sustainable ways to power your businesses, homes, and communities in the Boston area and beyond. Whatever your power is, believe in it. Discover Enel at Enel.com.
This is Outside the Booth.
I think it's an important game for both teams. It certainly helps establish our positions for the playoffs and trying to make us obviously eligible for the playoffs. So it's an important game for both teams. I don't know what to expect from Nashville. My guess is that their posture will be a little bit different than it was when they played here in Gillette.
Presented by Dan O'Brien Automotive Group.
The assessment from the gaffer, Bruce Arena, yesterday in his weekly media availability. He talks common sense. It's important for both teams. Nashville's probably eyeing the top 6 now after their back-to-back wins over Houston and Dallas. And the Revs want to cement the full 3 points. And as we discussed earlier, Charlie, less likely that we see a Nashville team that just packs it in, given their being at home, and they will have some fans in the stands in Tennessee, and a few more attacking options. Even though they're missing Mukhtar, they do have Cadiz, Godoy, Leal, Muil. The big Muil keeps on turning. Mm-hmm. And sorry, see, that's why we have Outside the Booth, so I can try out. It's like a comic going to a small stand-up club. And like, if you hear crickets, then you don't use it next set or you change your timing. But I wouldn't say that on the actual broadcast, because Alex's mother might write in and angry that I.
Yeah,
because I've got jokes about like half the last names in the league, and at a certain point, it just it's too much of a good thing. But. No, seriously, Nashville expansion team, but when you start to look at the guys they have, that's a good spine. You mentioned Romney, Zimmerman, McCarty up the middle, and then guys like Dunlady and Jones who, are getting opportunities to play. And then, you have, their DPs like Leal and Cadiz in the mix, and all of a sudden they look like a decent side. They're not world beaters, but not an easy game on the road necessarily.
There aren't any easy games in this league, and I think that's why it's so unpredictable. But this Nashville team, one thing heading into a match against Nashville is that they're going to compete and they're going to make it tough. They're not going to give you anything. They don't have any spectacular attacking players. There's no one that's going to wow you. And there's not a consistent goal scorer where you're like, man, we have to mark him or he's gonna bang a hat trick on us.
Yeah, Rios and Mukhtar each have 3. That's it. Yeah.
Goals by committee, and they try and mix it up, whether it's off a set piece or a counterattack, but that's typically how they're going to hurt you, or a self-inflicted mistake. So I think for the Revolution, again, it's being aggressive, being smart, having that balance of maybe we invite them into our half. Let's sit back and force them to come. Although I don't even think they'll dare to throw their wingers high and get their outside their center backs higher up the pitch. But this is a team where they're going to make it difficult. If the Revs win 1-0, that's a massive result, and that's kind of what you would kind of hope for in a match like this, because they will be. They'll make it very difficult for the Revs attackers.
Interesting. All right, we have John in Long Island on the line. Hey, John, welcome back to the show. How are you, man?
Hey, guys. Good. How are you guys doing?
Very well.
Great. Thanks for calling.
I just wanted to ask about the lineup, if you think it's going to be the same as it was against Philly, and what players specifically do you think need to have a good game for us to get a result tonight? Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I think right now the biggest I don't even want to say it's an issue, but the biggest area of concern for me is the defensive midfield position. The Revolution haven't really had someone who you can depend on, who's going to be a ball winning, but also someone who can break the lines with passes. Scott Caldwell is always a great option when you have a number 6, a straight up number 6 who's going to be a defensive midfielder who could cover a lot of ground, and you have a 10, a player who's going to really focus on being on the attacking side of the ball, get into good spaces, dictate the tempo. He's that middleman who keeps it simple, isn't relied on to attack, isn't relied on to be defensive. And I think he really hasn't had a good partner to do both, for who's going to do both. And so for Scott Caldwell, I think we've seen him play really well at times, but also we've seen him struggle when he's had to do a little bit more.
But that's been true of all the guys, right? We've seen great games from Polster, McNamara, but it's not. It's just getting the consistent right pairing on the field. Sometimes they put Diego in as the 8, but that puts more pressure. It puts more pressure on whoever's sitting in front of the back 4. And Zahibo wasn't the answer, although there are aspects of his game that I think we both liked. They miss Luis Caicedo. They miss him because he's a destroyer. He's not going to do anything particularly elegant with the ball once he wins it for you. But I don't think we've maybe made enough of the fact that he hasn't been around. And again, I've talked about this before, and I'm not sure this guy's ready yet, but even some of the players on these calls I was on who've been watching Revs 2, Maciel quietly had a really good year for Revs 2, this Brazilian for Belo Horizonte they brought in. He's in the Luis Caicedo mold, at least physically, similar size and cuts a similar figure, but his ability to read the game is really good. And he's strong in the tackle, even though he's not physically imposing. And he seems, from what I've seen, I haven't watched a ton of Revs 2, but he does make that next pass. And that's, Charlie, would you agree, is the definition of a good defensive midfielder, somebody who wins the ball and then gets it quickly to somebody who could do something useful with it.
Gets it off his foot quickly.
Yeah. Okay, so this leads into our question from Luca now. Who, Charlie, is your ideal central midfield partnership at the moment for the Revs?
I think Kellen Rowe should be on the field. From everything I've seen, from start to finish, Kellen Rowe, with his performances, what he can offer, a player who I think had to adjust quite a bit, understanding to be simple, but he can shoot from distance. He can attack. He can combine. He has a good touch. He can win aerial duels. He's good in the air for his size. I think he needs to be on the field. And then pairing him with, I think, Polster probably makes the most sense, because Tommy McNamara, I think he's struggled as well being a holding midfielder on this team. When he's higher up the field, I think it's easier for him to get around and get on the ball. But as a holding midfielder, really being responsible for just breaking up plays and combining, that's not his game. So I think Rowe and Polster, for me, would be the two best as far as chemistry together. Because Rowe and Caldwell at times is good, but against a really strong, dominant midfield tandem, they struggle. So I think Rowe and Polster, because Polster is going to be more of the anchor, whereas Rowe is kind of the flex guy. He can attack as well as help on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, Kellen still has his legs underneath him, and he seems like he's more engaged out of possession than he was earlier in his career, where I think he came out of college as a superstar and saw himself as a number 10, and I think he has a very realistic view of how to best apply his still considerable abilities. But they don't have that.
But I'll throw this one for you, Brad. When Carlos Heel gets back, if and when, you slide him into 10, the 10 role. You can't take off Tejan Buchanan. I don't think you can take off Teal Bunbury. He's been probably one of the most
games you need
players.
Teal, yes.
So you throw in Lee as the 8, and that's when it gets interesting, because and if you keep Polster there, so it's Polster, Lee, and Carlos in the midfield. That's intriguing to me.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. It does put more pressure on Lee to track. He's going to be gassed, and with the games coming every four days, that's a lot to ask of Lee. I think
they'll keep the ball. So
as long as they have the ball, it's an easier night at the races for Lee for sure. The other thing to keep in mind right now is, and I think the thing is to get it out of the way, Polster is now on yellow card watch. He should take a yellow card in tonight's game towards the end if it's not a close game, and just get that over with. And in the playoffs, I don't even know what the caution accumulation rules are going to end up being with single elimination. My guess is that they're going to try to make it not too high a bar, but still be draconian because they're going to, you know how these things go. But you can't worry about suspensions, and they're going to be they're going to have cover at those positions. I like the idea of heel and win out there. Like that's good TV, man. But you just. What you want is whether it's Polster or Rowe or McNamara or Caldwell behind those two, you want them to have their best days. Well, they have to have their A game back there.
They have to have their, but you need someone who's defensive.
Right.
But they can keep the ball or at least get it off their feet and they're comfortable in possession. So when you look at those three options, I think it's only Polster or Rowe.
Okay. Enough of us prattling on about this.
Yeah.
Let's talk to somebody who actually played this position for the Revolution for a living. Clyde Sims, Revs radio studio analyst and former defensive midfielder for the Revolution, DC United, joins us now. Clyde, how are you, my man?
I'm doing well. How are you?
We're having a blast here, and it just so happens we were just talking about the D mid position for the Revs. So let's stay on that topic. Since you watch all the Revs games and you used to do it professionally, how do you think they should approach that right now? If they get Carlos Heel back, what's your preferred midfield combination if you have your druthers?
Tough question. I think the one thing that I think is important is you have kind of a ball winner in there. I think when Carlos Hill comes back, I mean, the way Lee Wynn is playing and for him to be able to come in and play alongside someone like Lee, and T-Mac's playing well right now as well. So it seems like they're going to stick with the two attacking mids in there, and I think they're doing a good job of it. I think they're able to hold the ball more meaningful possession. They need to get a little bit cleaner in the final third, but overall, much better ball movement and much more comfortable in the ball as a whole. So I think it's important that they keep those two more attacking-minded midfielders in there. But I think you definitely need a ball winner in there and someone just to play simple, just to keep the ball moving. You don't want to lose it in that D mid spot. I remember my job at DC for probably a couple of years was to basically, as soon as I get the ball, find Christian Gomez at the time. And that was my job. It was simple. And I think whoever plays in that D mid position, I mean, same deal. I mean, get the ball to Lee. If Carlos is in there, get the ball to Carlos as soon as you can. And play off of them and let them dictate, because they do such a good job of it. And when they're playing well, the Revs play well. And I think, it can honestly be that simple, but you will have to do a lot of the dirty work, for sure. You got to do a lot of running for those guys. Like I said, ball winning, you got to be a little bit physical, to break up plays and things like that. And you have to communicate to those guys as well. The two attacking mids, right now T-Mac's doing a ton of work defensively. It's great. But those two attacking mids typically don't defend as much. They're going to be more defending with their positioning. And so you have to communicate well to them and get them in the positions that you need them in to succeed behind them.
What do you think of DeJuan Jones and Brendan Bye battling it out at the right back position? But now it looks like DeJuan Jones has taken a step forward. What do you think about his progress? Largely an attacking player in college, comes in same way, but now it's transitioned to left back, a spot he's never played, but adjusted pretty well, and now looks more natural on the right side and has performed relatively well. So what are your thoughts on that battle, that battle for the right back spot?
I mean, the competition is nothing but good. I mean, I love both those guys. The athleticism, I think there is something to be said for having a guy that can get up and down and can support the attack and also get back to get back and track guys back. And both those guys do that so well. They can move up and down the field pretty seamlessly. It's pretty awesome to watch, and to be able to have that, both those guys as options and as tools for Bruce is awesome. I've never coached at that level, but to have guys that can move like that, it makes your job a bit easier.
and the competition is great. I mean, they're only going to make each other better. At some point you do want to see some consistency. The guys around that position, playing the right mid position or anyone close to that position needs some consistency. You know how it is, Charlie and Brad. I know you see it all the time. The more guys can play together, everything happens a bit more seamlessly, and it's just a lot easier. You get familiar with guys, and you know where they're going to be. You know their tendencies, and that's something that is priceless. And so at some point you got to find some consistency in that spot. But to have those guys battling out right now is, it's great. They're only going to push each other. They're only going to get better, both of them.
Clyde, what do you think about tonight? Not an easy game. It's a longer trip than the Revs have had to make with this same-day travel down to Nashville against a team that stymied them 3 weeks ago, just under three weeks ago here in Foxborough, but now are playing more expansively in the attack with back-to-back 3-goal games and back-to-back wins, very much in the playoff picture.
Yeah. So, I remember covering that game, Brad, and it was I think we spoke after that game. It was a bit frustrating to watch how Nashville played, and they pretty much had to play like that. You can't blame them with all the guys that they were missing. But, for the Revs to go, and the Revs have been so much better on the road. I'm excited to see them tonight on the road and against this team that is more playing, a bit more soccer than they were a few weeks ago when they came into Gillette. The one thing I'd love to see for the Revs is just consistency overall. I think they have such a talented team. And they have the talent to really, put their stamp on any game, whether it's at home or away. I think that they have the talent to do so, and they just got to get there. I know they've made a lot of changes, a lot of trades and important positions throughout the season, and so it's been a bit of a challenge to get that. But they have the talent to do it, and I think it can definitely start in a place like Nashville tonight. On the road against a team that is, fighting for something, but not the greatest team, and they haven't been together that long either. And so I think that's something I would love to see from the Revs.
Who's impressed you the most this year, Clyde, on the Revs?
The most, probably as of late is probably Tejan Buchanan. There's been so many guys. You see some of the young guys develop, like Brandon, like Jones. Farrell's been consistent back there. And seeing them develop. Even seeing the guys come back. Scotty never left, but he's even developing and playing some of the best ball he's played with the Revs. And then a guy like Kellen coming back, and you can see how much he's matured being gone those years. And even Lee, he hasn't missed a beat, and he brings a calmness to the team that was missing since Carlos was out.
Yep.
And so it's been a lot of good performances this season, and you can just tell that and I don't think the three of us doubted it at all with Bruce that he was going to get these guys together. He was going to get them all on the same page. You see guys like Diego is used to playing every single minute, and now he's playing a different type of role. And when he does play, he's putting his all out there, and that's something you didn't necessarily see under Brad. And so Bruce has got him going in the same direction, and that's great. And sorry, that's I know that doesn't really answer your question, Chuck, but there's a
what about Matt Turner? What about Matt Turner?
Matt Turner's out of his skin, man. Playing out of his skin.
You know what? No, it's like I kind of expected it from Matt. You said it's surprising.
Yeah.
Like it's not that surprising for me to see Matt performing the way he is. He's,
okay.
What about Henry Kessler?
Oh yeah, he's been awesome. He looks like a veteran center back.
Agreed.
It's great. He's his development. He has some good coaches. You can tell he's had some great coaches and some good experience so far. And he looks like he belongs. He's solid. He's solid. He makes good decisions every single time. He's a great player.
Clyde, last question has nothing to do with soccer. I used to do this to you occasionally when you were still a player here. Many fans know that you were an aficionado of music, a musician yourself. What's in your short stack? You've given me some good recommendations in the past. Just give me one or two names, something new. It's always worth tapping into Clyde for this.
Something new. Oh man, I wish I was.
Something from U Street. I know you got all the. He knows all the underground.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I was talking to one of my buddies the other day and just talking about how much we miss concerts.
Yeah.
These days it's so disappointing. Short stack. All right. Let's see. I know there's newish hip hop artists that I mean, mine's always changing, and I teach spin, so like I'm changing my playlist like every other day. So I'm always searching for new music, and if I had to pick today, let's see, hip hop, I might go with. There's so much good stuff out there right now. I played a little NF in my class the other day. He's good. He's doing some good stuff. Let's see. Machine Gun Kelly came out with a new album that's totally different.
Okay. I heard that, but I haven't listened yet.
Yeah, it was a bit surprising, but he did a really good job with it.
Sure, you listen to Machine Gun Kelly Feldman.
No, but I have in my feed. I have lots of people who do.
Clyde, don't laugh at.
I said I've heard. I didn't say I listened to it. I said I've heard.
It's different.
Yeah, I listen to old man hip hop, old school hip hop. I listen to Stretch and Bobito. That's my source.
Feldman listen to MGK in the car.
What's the two guys?
The two guys, Brad, you might know them. They have like an old sound to them, but they're very much new age. Charlie, you might know them. Two guys. I think it's black dude, white guy. They've been around for a bit, and I cannot remember the name.
People Under the Stairs?
Nah, not them. They got some good stuff out. I can't think of it.
They broke
it up, but I'll let you know
okay,
tonight.
hit me off with a list. I'll see you tonight. Hey, Clyde, good stuff. And we should tell people. So, what's the website for Rev Studios? Just give it.
Rev REV, D as in Victor, D as in dog, RevIndoorCycling.com.
Yeah, you can take classes with the great Clyde Sims, and you can listen to him on 98.5 The Sports Hub most nights with Hardy. It's a great duo, great analysis, and thanks for the time here, Clyde. Appreciate it. Hope to get you back on.
Clyde.
Absolutely, anytime.
All right, cool. Yeah, and what a good guy, and
great guy.
Yeah, it's great that he's still in the area and in the fold, and
so happy I got a chance to play with him. He's just a wonderful guy.
He
Wonderful.
He really is top guy, and like you, Charlie, spreads the positivity. He is on definitely like he projects a low energy sort of a vibe, but then when you get him going, he's got so much going on. But he's just I wish his business all the success in the world. It's not an easy time for businesses like the one he's running.
No.
But it sounds like there are online options, and if you want to get drop the pandemic the panhandles as we call them, get on the bike and do a workout with Clyde. All right, final thoughts. Oh, we got a text here. My mouth got me in a little trouble here. Maybe.
All right.
Mike says idea for the Rev social team. I don't know why I'm even reading this. Revs Prez, Charlie Davies, and myself have a foot race on video. I'll agree to that if I either get yards for years or a running start. But how's this after that? Because I'll do it just if we can raise money for charity. Then we play New York 21, and then we'll see what's up. All right, we'll get on the court and we'll see what's up. All right, so that will be my equalizer. I've actually never seen you play basketball, Charlie, so I have no idea what I'm getting myself into, but I'm confident I can beat Brian in hoops.
The disrespect, assuming Brian has no hoops game.
I didn't say that. I'm saying that even if he does have hoops game, I'm pretty confident. I'm very confident.
Okay.
All right. But, I'm trying to level the playing field for myself because I don't know why I was talking trash against
I'm waiting for a response from Revs Prez.
Yeah. I would say I've always been described more as hard charging than blazing, but I can run, but not, I'm also old, period. But yeah, if we can do something good with it, I'll do it. Good one, Mike. Thanks for listening, Mike. Thanks for the great suggestion, Mike. All right, your thought.
Hammaker always comes up with a suggestion, one or two.
Oh, by the way, Hammaker, I will say this. Good shout on Ted Lasso. I was reluctant to dive into the Ted Lasso pool. I binge watched it. it's sweet. It's funny. It hits all the cliches, but in a good way. And I recommend anybody who follows the sport give that a watch if you have Apple TV. Real quick, Charlie, we only have a few seconds. Your thoughts about tonight?
3 points, Revs.
All right, I like it.
They learned from the first time. Now that full steam ahead.
Go get them in Music City.
Let's go.
All right, 8:30 start at NBC Sports, Boston 98.5, the Sports Hub. Yours truly and Chuck on the call. Thanks to Matt Morrell, Wally Franco, and the other people who made this happen, including Tyler Loisel and the good people at Revolution Communications, both in Foxborough and on
see
the
you
road.
tonight.
Nashville, Music City. All right. Talk to you next week on Outside the Booth.
This has been Outside the Booth.
Welcome to the revolution.
Presented by Dan O'Brien Automotive Group.